Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Two World Podcast. I am Barney, and I'm getting us started off today. And with me is my co-host, and he is
Jacob.
And just recently, I was sending text messages and whatnot to just about everybody that I knew, saying, "Hey, everybody, guess what? I was in a movie." And unfortunately, the movie, while it was the website was viewable here in Japan, when people overseas tried to see it, it was one of those regional things, and it was locked out. Um, it came about in a pretty fun way that I had a chance to be in the movie, but my part was just very, very short and also very much at the beginning of what the movie ended up being. And I, when I thought of what the movie was, I thought it was probably just something to, to bring attention to some of the needs that are here in Japan with the changing of the way life has changed after COVID and whatnot. But when I shared um, the trailer for the film, which is available for anyone to see on YouTube, Jacob thought, "Well, this is neat," and then he talked to me that, "Hey, wouldn't this be fun to do an episode about?" And I thought, just thinking about my role, and then he was able to uncover a lot more context and a lot more background to the film, and then we realized, yeah, this is really something to do. And it's just so interesting how you did that. Could you give us a quick summary of a quick introduction of how you even uncovered all of this background to the movie?
Oh, thanks, Bernie. Well, it's interesting because you had sent me a link for the trailer as
Hmm.
well as a link to the movie itself. Even though it wasn't playable here, there was some description even in the below the video there. And for the YouTube trailer, there was actually quite a bit of description. So,
Oh, I
just kind of
see.
digging into that a little bit more, and being like, oh, what could that be? And
Hmm.
that's kind of really what gave me more context. So for our listeners, if you want to dig into this, it is the text is in Japanese, so I just used Google to help me translate it.
Right,
So, but yeah, it's fascinating to dig into some of the particulars, and hopefully today we can do a good job of that too. So our
right.
listeners will even know after this conversation really the focus. So yeah.
Yeah, but before we get started, the movie is about Narita, some happenings in Narita, and yeah, I live here, as Sean would always say in other podcasts, coming to you live from Narita. You guys can go ahead and call me Barney, but Jacob, of course, you have visited recently, and other people we know have visited here recently as well. But how about your experience when you came to Narita? How did you feel about in general about the city, the places that you saw? Because you had the chance to see airport a little bit, of course, going and coming, but you could see a few other local places maybe some people do see a bunch, and maybe some places people not everyone gets to see.
Yes, I fell in love with Narita very quickly, and it was really my first entry point into Japan because like I flew into the airport there, and then you met me and helped me find my way to my hotel. And then the next morning when I woke up, I went back to a park that you had showed me that first night,
Hmm.
Narita-san Park, and walked around and just was struck by the beauty of the nature and the architecture in that park. And then I wandered back through neighborhoods from behind the park, curving around by a shopping center, and then making my way back to the Richmond Hotel where I was staying. And that whole walk was so charming. The way the houses and the yards were kept and the decorated, and just some little features about the streets that I walked on. And I wasn't used to seeing so many vending machines even along the sides of the streets, which I thought was kind of charming and neat. And then even walking by the grocery store mall area, and seeing some things that look familiar, some things that look different. But I think the thing that really struck me is just the city is a great mix of old things, old architecture, and new and modern things. And so I loved the natural beauty that's on display in Narita. But seems like a good size city. Like there's so much available in terms of restaurants and places to go, and like the outdoor museum that we went to in Bozo no
Mm-hmm.
Moro, Bozo
Mm-hmm.
Village, and then things like so many interesting shops and the wonderful street. I forget what the name of the street was that we walked along that had all these varieties of shops leading down to the gate entryway of Narita-san Park. But such an interesting place for a visitor from another country. So I loved Narita. That was my favorite city. Like my highlight of
Uh-huh.
my time in Japan. Yeah,
Mm.
was just going around Narita. And the last day I was there, I took another huge walk and went around. This time I went from a different angle, circling around Narita-san Park and tried to discover some new neighborhoods. And so just
Oh, yeah.
took several hours just walking that before met you to go to the airport. So
Mm-hmm.
some of those walks around Narita were highlights of my time. And of course, seeing your home and your neighborhood there in Narita was also a highlight. That was really fun. So yeah,
Yeah.
very charming place, I think.
Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah, you mentioned Narita-san, and some of the people listening along, they might hear the san, that Narita, obviously, and then the san part might think, oh, isn't that like what you attach to somebody's last name, to like call them Mr. or Ms. But um, so it's not, the area is not called Mr. Narita. It's actually um, the kanji is actually for mountain. And you can read it as sun. In this case, it's indicating someplace that is considered holy. So even it's really interesting when you think of it, because even we call it Fuji-san, Mount Fuji. But again, and then some people I've heard who read it as Fujiyama, and I can understand that. But since the mountain is considered to be holy, then that's why they read it as the sun. So um, conversely, sometimes my wife and I joke around and call it Narita Mountain when we're going to Narita-san because of the kanji. But yeah, I think the temple, the original temple, which is actually not the main temple that we go to anymore, it's much smaller, was built in 940
Oh wow.
AD. Yeah. So lots and lots of history around that area. And then the city itself is obviously it's not that old. I'm sure there was some areas around there. I think it was isolated for a while, but then of course the airport.
Hmm.
When the Narita airport was built, then that's when the city started to really take off. But yeah, I think we have some photos. Shall we? Speaking of like kind of the main attraction of Narita being, especially for local people, if you can share some photos. So
Definitely.
yeah, this first one is funny because even when I was searching Google Photos, I thought, oh wow, how did I get such a good picture in front of the temple? And then I noticed these kind of like line mark, like the what do you call those? Like the partitions that are used for like helping people make lines, make cues around different areas on the bottom right side of the photo. And then I remembered, oh yeah, Ayako took this photo of me and Silas, and it's like a big background, and it was at a shopping mall that was set up. And so I was like, oh
That's
yeah, that's
awesome.
right. That's where it is. Because it even has like kind of a this brick texture at the bottom of the photo leading into the background was also something that they put in place there. So they did a good job of kind of faking us out a little bit.
That is a good
But
photo on multiple levels, because the background is so pristine. You have like the cherry blossoms and a blue
mm-hmm,
sky, and the lighting is
mm-hmm.
just right.
So
But
nice.
then,
Yeah.
but you guys are looking really good in the photo too.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
it's kind of the best of both worlds. Nice
Yeah.
family photo, nice,
Uh-huh.
yeah, picture of a significant building. Is that
Yeah.
would that be a Buddhist temple or a Shinto temple?
Yeah, this is a Buddhist one.
Okay.
It's a Buddhist temple.
I
Yeah.
remember the gate being very ornate, and I think you told me the
Hmm.
more ornate gates you can tell them apart from the Shinto ones because they're ornate and they're typically the Buddhist structures,
Oh
and the
yeah.
Shinto ones are
Hmm.
simpler. So
Well,
okay,
right. Yeah, and usually
are all of the buildings then in Narita Sun Park Buddhist buildings then?
yeah, right. Yeah,
Okay,
that's right.
okay.
Yeah, it's quite a big
Ah,
compound. Yeah, right. Yeah, and then I think the next two photos will show how popular it can be. So I think that it is in Japan. So this is the new year of 2016, and in Japan, this is the second most visited temple or shrine for the New Year's time. So
Wow.
you can see all the people lining up to, hopefully ensure some success and fortune in the new year. So that's pretty typical within even the first few weeks for sure. You'll see on a weekend you'll see about that many people. And then this is a different festival. This is a fun one. We're seeing another big crowd, kind of a different view of different perspective of the temple that we saw before. And then there are some people wearing kind of, I'm not sure what you would call these costumes, but kind of a pink colored, makes me think of kind of like what like if you're seeing an old movie about Japan, like maybe a samurai would wear like this kind of like it has the real long shoulders or like some official might wear them in. They are throwing out little bags of soybeans, and this is the Setsubun Festival, and it's considered to be like by the old calendar. It's February 2nd or February 3rd, but it's considered to be the first day of spring um
Oh.
that according to the old calendar. And then you're supposed to throw soybeans from stand in your doorway and throw soybeans out to get rid of the bad spirits
Hmm.
and making room for the good fortune to come in. And the reason I wanted to come here is because the people dressed in the pink are all famous sumo wrestlers, and I'm a big fan of sumo. And the one that we see in the bottom, he was the yokozuna at the time, so the highest ranked sumo wrestler. So it was quite a coup. I think most of the people were there also to see the sumo wrestlers, so that was really neat.
Wow.
So it speaks to how popular this temple is that it can draw this many people during the new year, and then this level of guests for other events.
It's interesting
Um,
to me the intersection between athletics and religious heritage and cultural like celebration. Like they're all intersecting. Like I'm trying to think if there's any type of parallel in American society. Like I know famous athletes sometimes will be at other events, but that's kind of an
mm,
interesting. Well, yeah, like sometimes you'll see like athletes taking a knee on the field, or I remember there was this National Day of Prayer event that used to be scheduled. I don't know if it's still going, but some certain influential athletes would participate, and they would
mm,
but like,
hmm
is there
hmm
for a sumo? It's like interesting that I don't know to what extent the throwing of the soybean has any
Oh yeah.
religious overtones anymore. Maybe it's more just a
hmm
cultural practice, but it's interesting
hmm
that as athletes, there it's kind of fascinating overlap of roles there.
Yeah. I'm curious too how they decide to mix these two together. And then especially sumo has some religious elements to it as well, but not Buddhist. There's Shinto elements. So um
Ah,
but I think that just in general this is kind of I mean more focus on the cultural aspect, I think. But
so for our audience, I mean, we might have talked about this before. I think we have, but I'm not certain. Can you just tease out a little bit the presence of both of these religions simultaneously in Japanese society, if there's a way to do that succinctly?
oh yeah, that's a great question because I don't think we have talked about it before, but or yeah, I mean maybe we have touched, but yeah, I feel like I think that people will go to a Buddhist temple like just for kind of general things. Like if they're hoping for good fortune for an exam, or if they need like a lucky charm, for like a specific thing, like for safety while driving. Like those kinds of things are what you would find at a Buddhist temple. And then Shinto temples tend to be really specific. Um, like if you are having trouble with like this part of your health, if
Hmm.
you're having like trouble with painful joints, then you would go to this certain specific Shinto temple, which is in a certain specific area. Or there are even cases where if you're having problems with your health, you could even send like like clothes, certain part of your clothes to the temple if you can't to the shrine if you can't make it in person, and then they'll bless those clothes and send them back to you, and then that should help you to be healed. So you can even by describing this, you can kind of get a sense of how Shinto has a more folk feel to it, folk element to it. Um, in a way, and then of course Buddhism as being such a wider, bigger religion feels like it's a little bit more organized and a little bit more standard and traditional. But then if you talk to someone like I know when I was teaching English to adults my very, very first time here in Japan, like they would joke and say, Japanese people will say that we're Shinto at a wedding and Buddhist in the New Year and Christian on Christmas. So it kind of shows that there isn't so much um, it- uh, painting with a broad brush. Some people may not think so devoutly about different things, but of course, you do see people who really are very, very committed to the different practices of one specific or both elements of religion. But in general, like even that background photo that we saw in the first photo, there weren't so many people there. And when I was looking at other photos, I had a few photos when there was no one there, to be honest, So it's not a place where people regularly attend, but you can kind of sense a rhythm of what's going on in life as to when the temples are busier. Either some festival or like entrance exams to university are coming up, or different different celebrations or festivals like that.
So if I can kind of mirror back or recap,
Hmm.
uh, just and please help me understand if I have it right. In general, um, Shintoism has a kind of folk origin in Japan,
Hmm.
and Buddhism has a larger kind of regional influence in surrounding Asian countries as well as
Oh
Japan.
yeah.
And
Hmm.
in within Japan, Japanese culture, both kind of coexist and are practices or elements from either one are drawn upon intermittently, interchangeably, or it for various different unique contexts in
Mm-hmm.
Japanese culture
Hmm.
life. So like certain ceremonies would be, I think maybe, I don't know if you had told me this or I'd read it somewhere that like often when a child's born, it'll be one of the traditions, and then death ceremonies are a different one. So it's like almost like different
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
phases of life might you might be drawn to this or that
Hmm.
religious practice from either one. And in this photo, our audio listeners can't quite necessarily um, see it, but we'll try to describe it. You have these sumos wrestlers dressed in doing this Shinto ritual, and in the background are the Buddhist architecture. So you
Right.
like visibly
Hmm.
see both at the same time.
Yeah.
Um, and my impression is that there's zero. It's not like there's tension with having
Yeah.
them. It's kind of an integrated
Yeah.
or multi-tiered, multi-layered
Hmm.
way of engaging with them. But then you did mention um, Christianity around Christmas. So
Hmm.
maybe as a my impression of that is kind of like an exotic kind of cultural interest, but not
Hmm.
necessarily
Mm.
much more than that. Is that accurate? Like, I mean, people will go to um, what is it on Christmas Eve? They'll go out to celebrate or to a
Oh yeah,
service or
right.
something because it's romantic, but it's not necessarily like it doesn't. Other than that, there aren't other expressions really much in Japanese religious life or practice. Is that right? Or I don't know.
Yeah, what your summary the whole way was very good. And I like that you mentioned that with Buddhism and Shintoism that there's really a coexistence, no real tension or animosity. Like yeah, I was going to put that in if you didn't say that, but you said it perfectly. And then um yeah, like you say, I think that they make that joke about Christmas, thinking that you know, we're allowed to celebrate Christmas now, kind of that idea, and because we can welcome it and welcome this nice idea of celebrating Christmas in, and then exactly like you said, that like going to a Christmas Eve service is romantic for the candles, or in some people's cases, like they have a favorite movie, and in the movie, there's like a scene where the main characters are at a church during Christmas or in front of a church, and they kind of want to experience that for themselves to kind of feel what that might be like. And then that would be why they would go. But really have no interest of really caring about the message. Um and or further participating in church. But it's nice because, I'm sure there have been times where that was the lead in, the hook that somebody needed to start going to see that they needed that in their lives. Um, but yeah, in general, I think it's more considered um just something nice, something romantic, and another reason to give gifts. Either to your family and maybe to yourself as well.
It's interesting too, and I will try not to go down this rabbit hole too far because I know our main topic is more about
I
Narita and the
know,
movie. Sorry, this is, I promise, the
but
last
I love
rabbit
it
hole,
because
but
this is just fun. Yeah,
you can drill down really far in this. But
yeah.
I remember seeing maybe about 12 or 13 years ago, a Final Fantasy movie that was released that had drew on Christian imagery so much I could hardly believe it. Like at one point, a scene takes place in a cathedral, and at the end of the movie, people are standing in water, and they're like pouring
Oh,
water over each other's heads, like as we think of like the symbolism
wow.
of Christian baptism.
Right.
And I'm like, it's like, but it wasn't. It's like the symbolism was there, but there wasn't much invested in terms of any religious meaning or interpretation. Like it
Yeah.
was like a backdrop, and it looked. My guess was it was kind of for the maybe original audience, it would have seemed more exotic or unusual
Oh,
or
yeah.
something to see
Hmm.
that might be more interesting to have those
Hmm.
elements, but not necessarily. It wasn't trying to overtly say anything about
Mm.
to me about
Hmm.
Christianity. It was
Hmm.
just more drawing on the symbolism. I don't know.
Yeah.
Have you seen that in like anime or other media in Japanese film or games, or like a few Christian symbols sneaking in here or there, or art or like cathedral backdrops or things? I don't know if you've noticed anything like that.
Yeah, I do think that you'll occasionally see like the use of especially symbols, the cross and whatnot, as maybe decorations or like in part of the decor in restaurants and whatnot. Um and yeah, then in anime for sure, I think that kind of showcasing that kind of exactly like you said, like the exotic feel to it, I think is very interesting and appealing. And then because you often see, um, again, not to go too far to this, anime characters who are speaking Japanese and whatnot, but they're drawn to look like maybe Westerners, but within the context of the story, people aren't thinking of them as Westerners, but just as in part of um, the community that they're living in. But they're just drawn not overtly looking like Japanese people, and then I think they try to tie that in there to give the story and the community and the location a little bit more of an exotic sense to it, I think.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, thank you
Mhm.
for being willing to take a little sidestep into
Oh
the
yeah.
religious aspects of the parts of the park at Narita-san Park and
Hmm.
broader Japanese life. I'm I'm going to go back here to the next picture and see if I can pull it up here for you. And maybe you can tell us a little bit about that once it comes up.
Yeah. So as much as Narita is known for the temple, I think Jacob, you and I had the chance to walk around, separately um with the park that is attached there. And then it's so nice to feel just this serenity that you have there, and then just to feel that to see these unexpected things you wouldn't guess to have such a nice, just waterfall that's there, and then there's a pond that's there, a gazebo and whatnot. Um and I'm not sure either how many people who are visiting um, Narita-san for one reason or another have the chance to see this area as well. And it's one of those, like you mentioned, one of those nice hidden spots that really has a wonderful sense to itself that is its own reason to visit Narita-san, maybe even more than the temple at times.
Oh, I thought that park was outstanding. And walking around that pond, as you said, that gazebo is further a little bit out from shore in the
Mm.
water.
Into
And
yeah, it's
yeah,
so nice.
and walking out on the wooden walkway to the gazebo and looking down and seeing the fish. I think
Hmm.
they were koi or
Yeah.
large goldfish, are beautiful. And then to the right of that, looking at this calligraphy museum, which I think is quite a beautiful building in and of
Hmm.
itself. And I don't know, maybe it's because I was just newly
Uh,
visiting, but all of the homes around that park seem so
hmm.
interesting to me. The way they kept their
Hmm.
gardens and their
Hmm.
yards and like I really I don't know if it's like I have romanticized
Yeah,
glasses
right.
or if
Uh-huh.
you when you get around the park area you think this too about the homes. I don't know, but there I just went through the back of the park and walking through some of the neighborhoods and just it's a very pretty. The park is
Hmm.
beautiful, the
Hmm.
temples are beautiful, and then even some of the neighborhoods around there were really
Hmm.
pretty and interesting
Hmm.
to me. But
Yeah.
yeah, 100%. And I love too going around that pond. There's one area where there are these stepping stones that cross like the
Yeah.
little creek or a stream,
Hmm.
and they were so pretty too. Because you have, when I was there, I was so fortunate to be there when cherry blossoms were in bloom, and some of the petals are falling down, onto the stones,
Mm.
and you're walking across. You feel like you're in a painting or something.
Mm.
So
Mm.
it was, yeah,
Yeah.
a highlight for sure.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
well, great. So Narita-san Park is a huge highlight that will
Hmm.
draw people. And then I think you were saying too, the arrival of the airport had a big impact
Yeah.
on the local economy. And
Mm.
you had mentioned that maybe exploring a little bit of a map here could give
Yeah.
our viewers and listeners an idea.
Yeah, it's funny because it's called the Tokyo Narita Airport, Tokyo International Narita Airport, but it's inside the Chiba prefecture. So it's, as we can kind of see on this map, giving us a kind of view of we can see the southern part of Tokyo and then a bit of Chiba. It even says Chiba prefecture on the map. Um yeah, there is thankfully it's very accessible. There's two different train lines that go there, kind of two and a half. Um, one train line, two of the lines are owned by the same company, but um, that make it nice and easy to get to Narita. And since it's in Chiba Prefecture, it's kind of in a remote enough area that there's room to expand. I think that was their idea that if they need to, they can build the runways much bigger. They can add more runways, more terminals, or up to three terminals. And then in the same picture, in the same map, the bottom left corner is a little airport symbol for Haneda Airport. And you can see
Mm.
it's going into Tokyo Bay. So that's kind of locked in there. There isn't as much room for it to expand. But although it has been it thanks to domestic travel, it's the number one airport in Japan for in terms of travelers for many years in a row. Um, and then Narita for a while, Narita was number two. And then here's a nice view of how the airport looks. It's always so neat to see this kind of perspective because you think of planes as being so big, but then when you see an overhead view like this from far enough away, the planes don't quite look so big anymore, do they?
And this picture comes to us courtesy of Wikipedia. It's Wikimedia
I see.
Commons
Oh,
picture repository had this one in there. So,
yeah,
um,
nice.
uh, so this is Narita Airport, and
Hmm.
this would be such a familiar place for um, your wife Ayako,
Oh, yeah.
right? I mean, she would know this like the back of her
Mm,
hand, and you probably
mm.
know it super well
Yeah, me too.
too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, um, is there anything, if you were going to describe the character of the airport or something quirky about it, or just some like, how does this airport stand out compared to other airports you've been in? Is there anything about it that you would say, oh, that
Mm.
this is a unique? quality of Narita Airport.
Yeah, I think, of course, the first thing that it's when I think of Narita Airport, the first thing that comes to mind is how clean it is. Um, but in in a way, like that might give you the impression of it being kind of stark and maybe without a lot of character, but even though even from the cleanliness and kind of the muted colors that have it around it, some grays and beiges and whatnot, it really has a lot of character to it too. And I think that part of that is from like there's a lot of shopping that's available there, and a lot of really interesting restaurants that they have there, like one that just serves um, onigiris, like rice balls, and another one that has like this rice porridge soup that people typically think of just as like a snack food, but as kind of is people are realizing is more common these days as they sample Japanese food around the world, it's very well done. The ingredients are so nice and the presentation, the flavors, everything is just so nice about that. And of course it has its McDonald's and Starbuckses and whatnot. But I think the layout of the airport is very convenient too. As we can see in the bottom of this photo that we're looking at, it's Terminal 1 is at the bottom, and you'll see all of the red marks on the tails there, and those are all of the Japan airline planes. Um,
Ah.
and then the one kind of um, teal colored plane maybe is Vietnam Airlines, which my
Mm.
wife used to work for. Um, and then up above that, in the middle of the photo, are other planes where there are some Japan Airline ones, but there's also some United Airlines ones, and some All Nippon Airways, some ANA ones. So the way that they set out the terminals are interesting too, the way they kind of separate things out. But yeah, I like it's always nice. One fun thing that I really like about flying into Narita Airport is there's one big shopping mall that the planes go over, and like written on the roof of the shopping mall is the shopping mall's name. So they knew that lots of people are flying in and will see this, and then so they intentionally wrote it very, very large on there as a little advertisement for themselves.
Can you share the name of that mall with us?
Yeah, it's Eon, so it's Aeon, and it's written like that letter that I think it's maybe a Norse letter that is the A and the E that are connected. That's the text that they use for the Eon letter E. So Eon Shopping Mall. So
Is that the one that I would go to by the Richmond Hotel?
that one was Eon Town.
Eon Town
So,
Mall. Okay.
yes, right, yeah.
Ah.
So it's I don't think the name is written on that one, but the Eon Mall
Okay.
definitely is, yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's so the Eon Mall is much bigger than the Eon
Mm-hmm.
Town Mall. Okay.
Yeah, right, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I think you were telling me about there was one shopping center that you had recommended to me that I wasn't able to visit when I was there the first time. That I wonder if it was this one
May have been, yeah.
because I
Mm-hmm.
kept talking up Ian Town Mall. I was like, oh, it's so I love it, and I think maybe Ayako heard me. She's like, Barney, you should really tell Jacob about if he likes that mall. You should
One,
tell him about this other one
still,
because it
I
far
know.
surpasses the smaller mall. I'm like, Barney, the food court is so good, and like,
Oh,
oh,
yeah.
look at all the shops, and so I think you're like, Jacob, if you have time to go to this other one,
Mm-hmm.
but I spent my last day walking around the city, so I didn't make it there. But
Oh, yeah. Oh,
um,
yeah.
uh, but maybe next time.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a cool idea to have the roof
Mm-hmm.
advertising the
Mm-hmm.
mall.
Mm-hmm.
Um, well, I didn't mean to advance too quickly from the
Yeah.
map. My mouse is having some issues today, so that's why a
Oh,
couple of the
yeah.
slides advance on their own.
Oh, yeah.
Um, but is it okay to go ahead to the
Yeah.
thumbnail image for
Mm-hmm.
the movie?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, so this is what one would see on YouTube when you're looking at the advertisement for the trailer. It's this
Right.
image, and I think maybe this image was also used on other webpage you gave me with the actual film.
Right.
So there's kind
Right.
of the
Yeah.
main thumbnail.
Of
Um,
the movie in general. Yeah.
yes, and I don't know which um, title is the actual one of the film. I found two things,
Hmm.
and I don't know. So maybe I don't know if you've heard either of these, but either "Thank You from the Skyport" or "The Value of Working at Japan's Gateway." I don't know if either one of those sound
Mm,
like the title, but I saw both phrases.
right.
Um,
Yeah, the thank you from the Skyport is kind of the real
the the real
translation of
okay,
the title at the bottom.
okay,
So that would be like just translating it.
right,
But the one that the second one that you mentioned about the gateway,
yeah.
um it really makes sense because that's kind of how they brand Narita Airport as kind of the gateway into Japan.
Oh,
Since
okay,
it really has mostly international flights. There are a
okay,
few domestic, but almost each flight is international.
right, okay, gotcha. Yes. So the film's title emphasizes the value of working at Narita Airport.
Hmm.
Can you
Hmm.
elaborate on the specific challenges and rewards faced by airport staff, particularly in the post-pandemic era?
Hmm.
It seems
Hmm.
like the film touches upon this, and I know you would know a lot about this too, just from Ayako's experience and
Right.
as you've heard her share. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so just how in the previous picture there was the plane from Vietnam Airlines, which my wife worked for Ayoko worked for, but in the thumbnail again, then the one woman is wearing the green coat, the green blazer, and Ayoko worked for this company too. Uh, so her first job out of university was working um for the information department. The company is called ATS. I think it's Airport Terminal Services, and mostly working in different. They have different information desks around the airport, and yeah, you end up with a number of different questions that people have. Of course, it was fun how there's always like these typical questions that surface so many times, and Ayako and I would practice like the right English for telling people best way to guide them around, but. Um, as you mentioned, kind of the post after COVID, things really changed a lot. And one of the nice things about this movie highlighting, this main character who's working as a support staff in the airport is how, for one reason or another, fewer and fewer airport staff returned um, to their jobs. I think that maybe they were kind of on furlough and then they found other work that probably they thought was okay, and then they just enjoyed it as well or better or whatnot. And then it was too hard to go back to their job and at the airport to go back there. And we noticed that firsthand last year when we were at Haneda Airport. And, Ayako was mentioning how there's a real shortage in security staff and just staff to kind of like help guide people along and keep things running smoothly because while we were waiting to see if we would get on a flight there, the line for airport security to go into the next beyond security got longer and longer and longer and
Oh, wow.
this was Haneda was more than half of the terminal long by the time we were waiting. And we thought if they
Oh,
ever
wow.
call us to give us tickets, it will be impossible to make it through this line and get on our flight. And so I think that the director Yuki Saito, who came up with this idea to have in a movie that focuses on the need to you know hopefully, focuses on getting people showing what someone working at the airport can do, not just tell people, how to go here, how to go there, but maybe a role that they can have is so important to help people see that this as a job that they can do and that is rewarding in a number of ways. Um, Especially in this movie, the main character she helps a lot of people, and it's fun to see. I think they highlighted really well how technology that's available can help overcome the barriers of working in such an international place where even if you can speak English, it still doesn't mean that you can communicate with all the passengers coming through. But as we see in the thumbnail, she's using a phone to kind of translate, and it went smoothly in this scene to help her communicate with a woman from Indonesia who's trying to find her son. Um, and yeah, I think that the way that she kind of handled everyone's tension, because this is from a scene where we're stranded at the airport from a typhoon, and she's dealing with a lot of different questions about a lot of different things, but she, she shows poise, she shows composure, and then she shows the ability to have empathy with the passengers and the people at the airport, and I think that really highlights um, a lot of the nice things about I think people who think that they want to work around the public, they would see this and they would think, yeah, that really is rewarding. And I know Ayako spoke from her own personal experience that she enjoyed working at information and the different situations that arose, and then of course being able to help people find one another or get where they wanted to go.
Wow, that's really rich, Barney. Thank you for sharing all that information. Uh, it is fascinating and challenging to think about how the pandemic had that effect on
Mhm.
staffing and yeah, people deciding not to return to their positions. I think that happened in other sectors,
Yeah.
even here in the States. People changing careers,
Mhm.
and that
Mhm.
must be very disorienting and in a lot of ways for, like, if you think of this continuity of the services
Mhm.
of the flights and trying to keep everything going in an orderly manner to try to navigate that when you have that happening, but yet people stepping forward and trying to fill the spots, and even this film being an effort to try to
Yeah.
help bolster more interest and kind of attention to that importance of that role. Um, so the film, I understand, is has been inspired to some degree by some true stories
Oh, yeah.
of
Hmm.
specific people, and I just didn't know if you wanted to share just a little bit about that
Hmm.
part of it.
Yeah. So we had the chance to watch the whole film, and since it's a short, it was only about 30 minutes long. But one thing that was really neat is when they're rolling the credits, they're showing some of the actual workers who some of the stories were inspired from, and one of the people Ayako actually worked with, it was like her
Oh,
her older,
wow.
yeah, um, like we in Japanese we say senpai, so I guess like a senior staff member, and I think from the film, there's one part of the film where a guy is getting ready to get engaged, and he loses his the engagement ring. And
Oh,
yeah, and then in the end they find it. So I think that was we thought that was that was part of what was inspired. I don't so the very beginning here that we see is when uh, all traffic into and out from Narita is closed because of a typhoon, and that I don't know that has happened. Um, but these you can see in this thumbnail, some people are laying down with sleeping bags. Those sleeping bags actually came from Narita Airport, so
oh,
um,
wow.
yeah, so they do have them there, and they probably have had times where they had to use them, probably during the earthquake, I would think would be one time. Um,
Oh, that's interesting.
mhm,
So you'd mentioned the director earlier,
mhm,
Yuki Saito,
mhm,
and his desire to tell these stories from Narita Airport to both inspire probably people who are currently connected with the airport, um, but then maybe others who would hear those stories and maybe want themselves to become a part of that environment,
mhm,
or maybe just a broader public too, to have greater appreciation for those who are helping out at the airport. So thinking about that director and the production of the film, I had read that he partnered with um, another important figure, Yoshimoto
Mm.
Kogyo.
Yep.
And this partnership had an impact on the film's production and potential reach. Could you say something about Yoshimoto? And um, do you think that that would be true? That having his collaboration would be a boost to the film?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so about Yuki Saito, he grew up actually very close to the sister church, the Yacho Bible Baptist Church.
Oh
And then yeah,
wow!
just until he was 5, and then he moved to Narita. So I
Oh,
think he really feels that it's his roots that are in Narita. I was hearing him tell another person. And yeah, he wanted to do something this for the city and kind of highlight the airport. And yeah, and then I think the fact that, like you said, this being a contest, that he was selected, then he had the support of this Yoshimoto Kogyo, which is a very, very big, I guess, talent agency. They mostly focus on comedians that they represent, but having having them be behind this, it explained to me how they could even make this production. Because when I was there and learning more about it, like here and there, I thought this is just going to be a short, 30-minute movie, but it's a movie and it's not for TV. And I thought, how is this going to be viable at all? But because I wasn't aware that this was part of like a contest that probably people were submitting ideas for something they wanted to have made. And it definitely ended up being, I don't know the other submissions, but very worthy. I can see how it was chosen. And then so with the backing of such a very large agency like Yoshimoto Kogyo, then you can see that, yeah, that was big enough to have like a festival about it and have this main actor, this we see the woman in the green coat. She's very famous herself. So to be able to have her be a part of this, and she was very, very personable. She was very easy to work with, by the way. And um yeah, and then it was even in a movie theater in Shibuya. So to take a real short movie like that, yeah, and then have it have this much impact and this many figures, well-known actors in it, then yeah, you can see how Yoshimoto, the partnership with that really made this possible. And I do think that probably one day soon it will probably be on TV as well. Because yeah, I think more people need to see it. But um, like there was, it was funny because after I had filmed, been in the film, the next day my mother-in-law said, "Hey, I heard something about that film on the radio." And I was like, "Whoa, how is this possible?" And then a few days later, she's like, "Hey, there's this big one-page ad in the newspaper about this film." And I was really confused as to how this was possible.
that's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. Starting to think about your family members noticing, like your
Yeah.
mother-in-law seeing it in this independent place, that
Hmm.
newspaper. Oh, that must have been exciting. And for her to be like, oh, I've got to talk with Barney about this,
Yeah. Hmm.
get the inside scoop.
Hmm.
Um, oh, that's so neat. So I was reading then, part of it was, as we were talking about earlier, to raise awareness of the challenges that the airport industry has faced, but also to inspire a new generation to consider careers at
Hmm.
Narita Airport. But then there's this other aspect to it too, um, where these regional films. This was like one such example of the work of this regional films initiative. They aim to revitalize local areas.
Hmm.
So this film is itself trying to revitalize Narita City in the surrounding region by drawing attention. And so um, that's kind of exciting. Like if you're starting to hear
Hmm.
a buzz about it in the paper and local radio, that reach could also extend out to other cities, other places in Japan where people are hearing about it, and maybe put the idea, plant the seed in their mind. Oh, maybe
Hmm.
when I travel next time, um, or shop or do a day trip or a vacation, I should consider going through Narita or stopping.
Hmm.
Maybe that would
Hmm.
build greater um, interest, or even planning their trip so that they fly through Narita Airport instead of just a different one. Did you see the
Yeah.
film doing that work too, to some degree?
Yeah, I think that it was so neat to see how the airport was working so smoothly that with Yuki Saito and the film crew to keep this area available because this we were right outside of an arrival hall, so they really had to work around what we were doing to make this work. But um yeah, I think I can picture this really as um trying to reach out to people who are thinking about a career and um a lot of people who majored in a language or who like travel or who like helping people and are not quite sure how what they could turn that into. And then I think that this movie is reminding them that Narita Airport for sure, but all airports are really this is a place where these skills are still very much needed. And the amount of travelers coming into Japan is just getting larger again every year. And this really also other parts of the movie highlight kind of Narita as a city itself. And I think that people are seeing Narita as kind of just the right size, with a lot of nice things to offer, but not so big. And so we've had people who are moving in to live in Narita, but telework, to in Tokyo or Osaka or other areas, but they like Narita for being just big enough, but having a lot, not feeling crowded. And so I think this was also further to highlight that part of Narita. I think that Yuki Saito really wanted to show that off, I think.
That makes sense. Oh, that's interesting. It's kind of
Hmm.
a promising trend to be drawing people to live in the city, and it would bring more human capital and probably um, it's good for the economy, but also good for local culture. Perhaps
Hmm.
people coming and sharing their gifts and talents and being part of the community. Um, well, one of the other big parts of the film too is this idea of the power of gratitude, like the very
Hmm.
title of the film, "Thank You from the Skyport." So this theme of the power of gratitude, can you maybe unpack that a little bit? Is it the film itself like a message of thanks to the airport staff and people who are doing this work? Is it expressing the gratitude of those who are flying as they've been helped by these staff, or is it also gratitude from the staff themselves, or is it all of the above? Could you just
I,
unpack a little bit, like with that type of title, they're trying to zero in on something, and I'm just kind of wondering what your sense is of why that was the title and why it's highlighting that.
yeah, I think yeah, it touches on a lot of those for sure. And especially as the movie opens with a real stressful situation where this typhoon has basically like a really large hurricane has closed down the airport and people are not sure what to do and feeling a lot of it being ill at ease, since this is just an airport, it's not a hotel. What are we going to do? How are we getting where we're going? How can we meet the people that we're here to meet? Um, and then as the film, and then this picture from the thumbnail of this Indonesian woman who arrived in Japan on her own and is trying to find her son who lives and works in Japan. And then, but because of the typhoon, he can't meet her. Um, and then so we see that this airport staff is being able to help a lot of people and help diffuse a lot of situations. And then she's also able to help this one man, find this ring that he's lost. And we see that us passengers are so thankful, feeling so much gratitude, and and reassurance and relief from being able to have this airport worker here, and and her crew, her team. We there are other airport workers that they feature, but of course she's the main one, and so yeah, a lot of the movie, of course, as you might expect, is the people that she has helped feeling gratitude toward her, but you can see in her character, and then the other people that she talks with, that they are thankful for their job. They feel they are very fulfilled with being able to help people in these extreme situations that the movie is focusing on. And then of course, from my own experience from Ayako, just the small everyday ones. Um, there's such fulfillment. I think that we all know, no matter what job we've been in, just being um interacting with other people, how great it feels helping others, if it's something big or something small. Um, it even the other day, it was a rainy day and I was on the train and I saw a guy was about to forget his umbrella. And so I just pointed down to his umbrella, and he, that sense, the thank that the sense of gratitude that you get from helping someone like that, it's just so rewarding. And so it was neat that the director made sure to emphasize that aspect of this job as well. And so yeah, having gratitude, sense of thanks, really is a great, uh, really important theme that comes through really well. Not overly so, but just really naturally throughout the movie.
Well, thanks so much for explaining that. That makes sense. And that's a
Hmm.
really rich way to weave that into the story of the film through the individuals that this person has helped. I
Hmm.
like that. And maybe now, for the moment all of us have been waiting
Oh yeah.
for, we have a actual screen capture from your scene
Yes,
featured in the
it's me.
trailer when you're in the
I
movie.
know. Can you imagine? I got to be in the trailer. I had
This
just
is
one
amazing.
line.
I'm
Yes.
looking at you on screen, Barney. Here you
Hmm.
are.
Hmm.
And your expression, there's such urgency.
Yes.
You're doing a great
Yes.
job. I
I
mean, I want to
know.
see that film. I want to, experience what you're portraying there. Um, so could you talk a little bit about your experience portraying this character and tell us a little bit
Yeah.
about what that involved and
Oh yeah.
what your focus was for your
Hmm.
character?
Yeah. So, um, Ayako has a friend that she went to junior high school with, and her family has a small restaurant. And Yuki Saito has been there a few times and is friends with Ayako's friend. And he mentioned to her, "Hey, do you know any Americans that can be in my film?" And then so she said to Ayako, "Does Barney want to be in a film?" And I thought for sure, just as an extra. And I was like, okay, yeah, that sounds like fun. Just be there for like an hour or two, walk up and down the hallway or something. Yeah, okay, I'll, maybe like try to look directly into the camera or something. And and then she said, "You might have a speaking part." And I thought, whoa, really? That's impossible. And then it was this all happened just about a week before, so that's why I didn't know much of anything about this. And then um we they were, it was interesting because in Japanese as well, they use the word talent, as in like describing a person, like an actor. Oh, their talent, they are the talent, and it was taking a while to get things set up, and I was there, and then I was sitting and chatting with another person who also had a real short role, um, and then there were people behind us who were sitting there, and then they were trying to get things organized, ready to go, and then um, one person was asking another person, how about these people here in the back? And they're like, "Oh, no, they're not supposed to be here. They're just, regular people, And then, okay, I'm sorry, would you guys mind leaving? We're just going to film. And then they pointed at me and the other guy, "How about these people here?" And then they said, "Oh, no, they're talent. They can stay." And so I thought, whoa,
What an
I'm
affirming
challenged.
moment.
Yeah, really. Hey,
You're
look at me.
You're a talent incarnate. You're the
Yeah,
talent. Your
really.
embodiment there of talents.
I
Yes.
am talent. I'm the talent. Yeah. Yeah.
I love
And
it.
so since it was so close when I joined to production, I didn't receive anything. I didn't know what to wear. I didn't know what my role would be. So I just thought of all the people I've seen and traveled with from America coming to Japan. Most of them are, like they're here for business or whatnot. So I thought, okay, if I wear a polo shirt and then maybe a t-shirt underneath, it gives me a little flexibility that I can, if they need a different look, I can take off the polo shirt and have a t-shirt on. But otherwise, polo is kind of pretty standard. And thankfully, I had gotten my hair cut like that day or the day before too, so I was looking okay. And then, you know, it was already time. Eventually, it was time to have this scene that I was in, and we were just like practicing just to get a sense of how where people should stand and whatnot. And then one person said their line, and then the main woman said her line, and then everyone looked at me, and then the director said, "Oh, sorry, sorry, I never gave you your line."
Oh my
And then
goodness.
yeah, and then he said, "Just say something like, are we stuck here at the airport?" Um, and then I thought to myself, I thought, if I am an American, I probably would say, am I stuck here at the airport?
Oh,
Being
right
the
on. Our
typical
rugged
typical
individualism, right?
American, yeah, right, typical American. I'm pretty important, so am I stuck here? I don't know about these other people, but if I'm stuck here, that's bad news. So, so it was. So then I thought over that for a while, and then just as we did it, then I came up with. So wait, are you telling me that I'm stuck here at the airport? And then that was my line. Um, but and then when I saw
Very
and
believable.
I
That is a
yeah, thank
believable
you.
line.
Thank you very much. Yeah,
Yes.
I can imagine a real person stuck at the airport saying that to the staff. So wait a minute, are you telling me that I'm stuck here at the airport? And it was it was pretty neat because I think probably you have also seen movies or TV shows where like they're showing what it's like when you're recording a movie or a TV show. Like how the extras you know, they film a scene and then either they have to cut it or they want to film it from a different angle and then the extras go back to the first step, to the first mark. And and so it was funny to see the extras who were just there, um who were always, they had like luggage and whatnot, and they would come in because this was at the arrival gate. So they would come in from arrival and then okay, cut, and then they'd have to go back, and then they'd come in from arrival and then cut and they'd go back.
Uh,
And so I kind of I had so much time to think about this. I thought, what kind of person, what's the situation? And I thought, I know this is at the arrival gate. So I'm going to my inspiration here is that I'm anxiously waiting for Ayako to come in on a flight. So, at the
oh.
very beginning you see me a little bit like standing up, like looking around, oh, is she coming? Is she coming? And then, is she gonna get here on time? And then um the scene starts with a woman, a Korean woman, she speaks to the information woman in Korean. And I was disappointed that this wasn't a little bit of a wider shot because I thought that I was pretty good in this. And I'm busy, just I can't understand them because it's Korean. So I'm just looking around, waiting. And then the staff doesn't understand. So the Korean woman says, Tokyo taxi. And then the information staff says, I'm sorry, there's no taxis. And then that like really registered to me. Uh-oh, this is big news. So as an American, I just butt myself in there and I say, so wait, are you telling me that I'm stuck here at the airport? And then she says, I'm afraid we all are. And then, you know,
Oh,
and
wow.
yeah, and we did so many different takes and, from different angles. So I really didn't know what it would end up looking like. And then when I saw the trailer, because the main actor, she had this trailer on her Instagram, and that's how Ayako saw it. She's like, "Hey, the trailer's out, and you're in it." And and then I saw it, and I thought, I can't believe how good I look. I really didn't imagine it to look this good. And then I wonder what do people really, because it's a voiceover, and I thought, during this, they're like, in a world, one of those things.
Yes,
So
yes.
so there's no audio. So I thought, what are people thinking I'm saying? Are they thinking he's saying something like, so wait, are you telling me that the plane is lost? Did the plane go down? Is that what you're trying to tell
Oh my
me?
goodness.
But it's just it's just, are you telling me I'm sick at the airport? So
Well, I noticed in this frame there is some text.
mm.
Is the text relevant at all to what you're saying, or is it something unrelated?
Oh, it's just kind of um people in distress at Narita Airport. So
Okay. Okay. And that
yeah,
you were
so
you were in
I
distress.
was I
That's an
was
accurate.
yeah, I was. I, no matter what it is that I had to do, it's very, very important to me, and I can't be stuck here at this airport. So,
Yes, yes. Well, bravo, Barty.
oh, thank
That's
you. Yeah.
so cool. I think you pulled it off really well. At least as
hmm
I'm looking at this image and thinking of what you're describing, you're saying it
hmm
matches so well. So
hmm
I
hmm
can't wait to someday hopefully see it.
Oh
Maybe if
yeah.
if I come to visit you in the
Oh yeah.
spring or something, some way we can figure out,
hmm
a
hmm
way to see
hmm
it. So
hmm hmm
very cool.
Yeah.
Um, so what a unique opportunity. And
Oh yeah.
is there any kind of additional thought or reflection that you'd like to share about what it was like or what it's meant to you to be in this,
hmm
or any
hmm
other thoughts before we close our time?
Yeah. It was fun, such a fun experience that, not knowing, I think it was the most fun because I didn't know what I was getting myself into. And I didn't know what all the film was about, or why. And then finding out what the purpose of the film is and the other people in it. And that I had the chance to have a speaking line in it. And just its intention to help people see that this is a worthwhile job that they might want to get into, and that it's something that there's a real need for. And then also, I really like Narita. I'm proud of Narita and Narita Airport, and to be in such a positive film about both the city and the airport. I'm really glad, really thankful that I had that chance, and it was really I was there for 5 hours. Because
Wow.
since I was an extra, then I mean, since I was in that first scene, I had to be in the other scenes as well, like other stories that were happening while people were stuck at the airport, in addition to just me. And and so then I was there for other scenes, pretending I was one of the people in the sleeping bags too. Yeah, and yeah, but even that, it was really a lot of fun, and it would be neat to be able to do something like that. I didn't get any compensation, I didn't mind. That was just fun to do that,
It
and
was its own reward.
it really was. Yep. And if one person says during their interview, I was inspired, what made you want to work for airport security? Well, I know there's some Americans out there, and they're going to need help if there's ever an emergency, and I want to be the person that helps them out. And so I'll know that I did my part in bringing them to their dream job.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's really cool. Um, they have that expression. I can't remember how it is exactly, but something along the lines of like, well, most people in their life will experience at least like 15 seconds of fame or something, or
Uh-huh.
15 minutes, or it's
Minutes.
some.
Uh-huh.
It, when you think of your life, is this one of the most fame-filled experiences you've had? I mean, compared to all, I mean, is this part of your slice of fame over your lifetime? You think that this?
Yeah, 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 right.
Okay,
Yeah. Yeah, I think this is pretty good.
this is pretty good. It's very good. Yeah, I like it. Oh, wow. Well, Barney, thank you so much for sharing about this
Mhm,
experience
mhm,
and about the film and about Narita in general. I hope that our audience today enjoyed hearing a little bit more about the city and about this really important role that people in airports fill. And maybe even someday some of our listeners will get a chance to visit Narita, hopefully, and experience some of the things that we were describing. And so we want to thank you for taking time to follow along with us in this conversation. We really appreciate it. And until next time, goodbye.